In today's video, I will be revealing a hidden opportunity that I have found on Amazon for launching products. This opportunity is the result of several factors combining perfectly at the same time. So I'm going to be sharing the factors that have led to this opportunity opening up and ultimately what exactly this opportunity is. So let's get into it. So there's actually been a few factors that are contributing to this new opportunity that I've found. Some of them are within Amazon's platform, and some of those could be considered outside of Amazon's control. So let's start with one of the factors that is actually a bit further removed from Amazon. It is essentially the entire global climate in terms of business and inflation and all that. So as you guys have known, inflation has been rampant for the last few years. It is a lot higher than the statistical numbers will even be reported to you. However, as you guys all know, the cost of everything has gone up. A lot of large companies that were making $1 billion 3 years ago are now making $2 and $3 billion. And so just costs, revenues, they're both up, and at the end of the day, a lot of company profits and revenue are much higher than they were a few years ago. However, for the average consumer, most people's wages have risen only a small fraction, maybe 3 to 5%, and it hasn't even kept up with the rate of inflation. People are paying 30% more for gas, 40% more for rent or mortgages, and costs have gone up far faster than people's salaries. So what did these two factors mean? Well, one, big corporations are looking for big opportunities, and small consumers who are in lower income brackets are now having to shop for more budget goods. They're comparing prices more, and essentially they just don't have as much buying power. So they're looking for lower priced items. Okay, so we've established that. Large businesses, record profits, record revenue, your average consumer, worse off than they were 2-3 years ago. Okay, let's move on. The second point I want to make is during 2020 and 2021, a bunch of large firms with investors' money pooled this money and started buying a bunch of small Amazon sellers' businesses. So there's a bunch of these different companies. They're called aggregators, and one you may have heard of would be Thrasio. They're the biggest and most well-known. They were one of the first to start acquiring Amazon businesses. So essentially they would use investor money, they would purchase these Amazon businesses, they would have a team of employees, they would keep purchasing and acquiring new businesses, and then they would attempt to scale these businesses up and then eventually sell them on for more profit or just profit along the way with these successful businesses. Normal sellers like myself, when we get our businesses up to a level where we're finding it tough to grow further, or we think that it requires a more advanced team or structure, or more money is needed to continue to grow the businesses, quite often that leads to us selling our business on a website such as Empire Flippers. I mean, you can go to empireflippers.com and just look at all the different businesses for sale. You can sort, go to Amazon FBA businesses, and you'll see a ton of different businesses for sales with different revenues and profits at different multiples. So some of these aggregators were buying businesses from Empire Flippers. Some of them were reaching out to small Amazon sellers directly. But the moral of the story is they bought up a bunch of these businesses, and then they had control of a bunch of small businesses under one corporation. Now, over the years, a few of these aggregators have done really well. A lot of them have kind of done mediocre, and a few of them have quit or gone bankrupt or sold off their assets. But that's a story for another time. The thing we want to focus on is that these are big companies now controlling a higher percentage of the products for sale on Amazon. And so a lot of that has shifted from small sellers such as myself to being controlled by large corporations with big offices and lots of employees. Now, the way for these aggregators to grow their profits is typically by focusing on their few winners. So say this aggregator has 10 different businesses that they've bought. Each of those 10 businesses has 10 products. That means that they're controlling a lot of products. And what they tend to do is focus on the small number of inputs that gets them the biggest return. And so my point here is that they're focusing on all these different brands. They're probably only paying attention to the top few sellers, each product from each of those brands, and some of the other products somewhat get lost in the weeds. There's just a whole lot less control over the catalog when it's controlled by one big corporation. It's just another number on a stat sheet. Whereas when these brands are owned by individual owners who really care, they don't really leave as many leaves unturned. And what does this mean for the hidden opportunity I'm talking about? Well, we'll get there in just a second, but what I want you to take away from this is that some of those lower end products with less revenue are somewhat being forgotten. The typical journey for a lot of brands and individual products on Amazon is these products got started maybe 5 years ago, back when Amazon wasn't as big. They slowly grew. Maybe this product wasn't very popular on the Amazon site, but over the years, more and more shoppers have come to Amazon. And maybe this product has become more popular in general. And so after a while, it's gone from a small seller discovering and launching this product to growing over the next few years and then eventually being acquired by a large aggregator and then just becoming another small plot of data on the data set. So what this means is maybe once this aggregator controls 10 brands with 10 products each, they now have 100 products that they are focused on. However, the majority of their time is probably spent on the top 20 products across those 10 brands, and therefore the bottom 80% of their products are getting less attention. And here's where my theory of a hidden opportunity begins to develop. But quickly, in the meantime, during 2020 and 2021, when these aggregators had a whole bunch of investor money, interest rates were really low, so they could borrow pretty much as much money as they needed. They were pumping a ton of money into Amazon, into PPC ads, and they were trying to gain market share. So they were essentially crushing smaller sellers that they were competing with because they had more money to throw at their problems. What this has actually done over the last couple of years, and I've been a direct witness, I know a ton of Amazon sellers, and I know quite a few of them who have either sold their businesses to an aggregator or they've been pushed out completely and no longer sell on Amazon. What this has done is forced out a lot of the smaller sellers. Another factor to consider is that during COVID, Amazon started massively restricting the amount of goods that you could send into Amazon. And so most sellers were forced into switching their model from shipping directly from their supplier, usually in China, to Amazon. They've gone from that model to having to hire a third-party warehouse in the United States, typically, where they would first ship their products from China to this warehouse and then intermittently send in products to Amazon. The big problem with this is that these warehouses have monthly minimums. So even if you had a small amount of products, you usually had to pay like minimum $500 a month. And for someone only making $1,000 a month, this massively increased your costs. So Amazon kind of unknowingly shifted a lot of the advantages towards the big corporations and these aggregators. A seller that was making $1,000 now, because of these warehouses and extra shipping fees, was maybe only making $300. And so this is more of a problem when you have low revenue and profits. But let's say you're making $250,000 a month on Amazon, you're a big corporation. Okay, now you need a 3PL. Well, okay, maybe it's 10, 20K a month. It doesn't make as big of a percentage hit on your profits. Yes, it does make a hit, but it massively impacted smaller sellers. So now we are here today in 2023 with a bunch of the old sellers gone because they've either sold to an aggregator or they've quit. And now these aggregators have a huge catalog of products that they're having a tough time managing, and it's leaving opportunities in the lower half of the market. So what are the few examples of how these lower bracket products have declined? Well, even from what I've seen with these aggregators, I see some of their brands, and for those products that aren't their big money winners, they have not been stocked well, their rankings have gone down, And they haven't even kept on top of reviews. I mean, it's very tough for these large businesses to focus on every single small detail in their entire catalog. And so I really believe that a lot of those lower end, lower sales products have become a better opportunity than they had been over the past 3 years. So maybe they were a good opportunity in 2018, and then over the last 3 years they haven't been. Well, I actually believe that some of those products are becoming a good opportunity once again. These days, Amazon has massively expanded their warehousing capabilities, and so sellers like myself are now starting to realize that you no longer have to pay for these expensive 3PLs. You can use one of Amazon's different solutions. So they have the upstream storage solution, which I'm currently looking into. Basically, it's Amazon's own 3PLs where they send your goods from their own 3PL into their actual warehouses for a small fee. End of the day, it's much cheaper and a better deal than independent third-party logistics centers. And also, Amazon is now allowing more goods to be stored at their normal warehouses. I guess they've caught up to the demand for warehouses. And this is great for sellers who traditionally just sent their whole shipment of goods from China, for example, direct to Amazon's warehouses. So me personally, that's what I'm looking to do. I'm going to be cutting out my 3PLs. They've wasted so much of my money over the last few years. But on the plus side, now they've removed that big barrier. So for example, I've had months where I made $10,000 if you look at it, but once you consider the extra transportation and third-party warehouses that I was paying, I had a couple extra warehouses that I had to use in a pinch, and I was losing half of my monthly profit to these extra 3PLs. So my profit was 10 or 11K, and now it was down to 5 or 6K. And so Amazon re-expanding their warehousing capabilities has led to a lot more opportunity for smaller sellers who now no longer have to rely on 3PLs and can go back to sending bigger shipments from China to Amazon's warehouses. And so for those of you who know me or have followed my YouTube channel for the last 5-6 years, you guys know that my personal strategy has always been to find low competition, low to medium sales products. Maybe they make $500 or $1,000 profit per month. And then I just try to launch as many of those as possible within a given niche. And I believe that that has served me very well because the competition is low. I'm not competing with a bunch of different sellers. So we have higher profit margins because we're not creating a race to the bottom. So that's great. It causes me to spend less on PPC because if we're selling in a niche where there's only 5 other competitors, there just isn't enough ad spots to warrant spending a bunch of PPC money. And so that's one of the things that Amazon sellers are complaining the most about these days. Their PPC costs have gone skyrocketing. But me, in these smaller niches, that hasn't been a problem. And so here I am, once again, promoting my way of thinking, which is essentially find these small products with medium to low sales, low competition, and then just make a really good product that beats the few competitors in that market, and you will make money. It's still easy. There's still solid margins, and I just love this opportunity. And it just reaffirms my belief that this is the number one strategy in 2023 for making money online. Yes, okay, you might not make 100K profit in the first year, but you can stack enough of these small wins on top of each other until you make a very meaningful 6-figure per year profit. And I believe it's easier than it was last year. And like I've said in previous videos, this YouTube channel is going to show you everything that I'm doing, show you how I'm finding products, show you how I'm building the business that I have today. I think this is a really good opportunity, and I think it will continue to be a good opportunity. You just need a little bit of guidance, and I'm going to continue to prove that you can launch products that make $500 to $1,000 a month, scale them up to the point where they're maybe making 2 or 3K a month in the future. And this is really meaningful income for 99% of the people out there. So the moral of the story is aggregators and large businesses and Amazon's policies pushed out a lot of small sellers. They also stopped focusing much on the smaller brands and products that they acquired. And I believe that those two factors combine to have left a bit of a void and an opportunity for sellers like myself or you to come find these small profit, low competition niches, launch a bunch of these products, improve on the product, And I believe there's a lot of profit to be made. You just got to go find those opportunities. I truly, truly believe in this. I encourage you as a prospecting seller to look into this. Keep up to date with my videos. I will be talking about this more over the coming weeks. And I just genuinely believe this is the number one thing to consider if you're trying to launch a brand over the next year. I think 2023 is the resurgent of low competition products. It's what I've always been preaching, but I feel even more convicted in giving that advice these days. And so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any perspective on my thesis, I'd love to hear your opinion. And I have nothing more to say on the matter. So thank you very much for watching the video. Feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'd be happy to engage with you guys. That's it for this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.